Checking, 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 checking. Chew. Okay, so now I hear myself. That's not cool. Okay, so now I hear myself. Okay, so now I hear myself. Alright, so it's gotta be this. Alright, I think I figured it out. Yes, sir. We have sound. Hey, Rob, what's going on, brother? So, I am going to go. Here? Yes. All right, what's going on, people? I am Darude, and I am here doing a little bit of chat. Let's see. Oh man, come on. Yeah, guys, this is Darude. I am in my studio in Finland, and today is a good day. Not only I get to sit in the studio and make some music, but it's also a release day for a track called "You Are the One" by Max Millian. He's a Finnish DJ and a producer, also an event organizer, all-around good guy. And I made a remix of his track "You're the One" because I basically fell in love with it when I got the promo first. And so I asked for the parts from him just so that I could do something with the track, kind of for my own play. But then it got going so well and quickly that I asked if he wanted the remix, and his label Infrasonic, and this is out on Infra Progressive, wanted to release it, and they did, and here we are on the cover, or on the corner of the here, this one. We have the single cover. It is now available on Spotify. Will be probably it's available now on Beatport, should be on Apple Music, it's on iTunes already. It is also on my SoundCloud, on Infrasonic SoundCloud. So I will be dropping links on the Twitch chat and the Facebook chat in just a second. So what I'll do is I'll just hit play here and I'll just shut up for now. We can listen to the track once now, and then we can listen to it again a little later. So I'm just going to start dropping links on those chats so that you guys can find it and take a listen, buy or stream it for yourselves. Spotify. iTunes. Beatport. And then of course SoundCloud. Boom. Let's go! Moikka Mokko! Alright guys, so Toni Siukola, kiitos. Yes, I know Juska Orion has been supporting this on Finnish Yle X, our, so to say, BBC Radio 1, which I've been very happy about. I posted a couple more links. One link is me sitting in a not so well lit room. I am in in Hawaii, in Maui, in that video, and that is pretty much after I've gotten the parts from Max Millian. And in that video, it might be boring to somebody, but it was my first session with the track, which I did basically 2 days I was in Hawaii and I had a couple of off days. On one day I went surfing, on one day I went ziplining, and on two of those off days I actually made this remix. So I locked myself in the hotel room that you can see in one of the videos that I posted a link to. And so I'm just mumbling basically to myself and to the camera, going through the samples, explaining my process a little bit. And I'm not really getting going to working on a full track or anything, but you can see some of the actual starting process of me working on the remix. Telling a little bit about the parts, telling my decisions and whatever I'll do, and properly picking my nose and scratching my butt a little bit too on camera, but well, that's me. And then the other video is from last week, when actually, hold on, this week. Yeah, when Max was actually here in the studio with me. He lives about half an hour away and happened to be home. I happened to be home. We decided to do a little bit of a run through of the project, which he hadn't seen either before. He just heard the final product and a demo on the way. And so that's about a 2-hour long and sometimes very detail-oriented production kind of run through, but you can hear the track and various parts separately there as well. I'm showing my Logic project file and stuff. If you're interested, you can skim through that as well. I did that on Facebook, also on Twitch, and then there's also a YouTube video that was done simultaneously. Hei Kimmo, mitäs naapuri? And so that's about it, I guess. Track is called You Are the One. Very meaningful track for Max. He wrote it for somebody. And when I first heard it, I'm not really a lyrics guy, but I mean, it's easy to remember. I can feel it, blah, 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 blah. Rays of whatever, sunshine, whatever there is. I fell in love with the chords and how the melody of the vocal worked on it. And that's, I played his original several times in my sets and in my radio show as well. But I had an idea of having a little bit more energy on it, and I was very loyal to the original, but then there was a little twist that I made with the lyrics. There's actually no original Be My Sunshine lyric at all, but it's just, I could edit it together from the existing things. And mine has a little more energy maybe than his is a little more progressive, and it's by no means low energy, but lower energy than mine. And I made mine not really thinking about anything. It just came out to be like it is now. And I think I'm gonna just replay it for those people who just joined. Yeah, so I did 2 days, or a few hours per day in Hawaii, probably six hours a day or something like that. Then there was one 3-hour session at an airport lounge, and then one, maybe 2 sessions, a couple of hours on a plane, mixed with these headphones, produced it on my laptop, and then when I came home here to my studio, I did one kind of final mix session in the studio with my speakers, and so the full-on quality, so to say. These are good headphones, but I like to mix stuff down though. The final mix here in the studio. So, if anyone has a question about the track, about my process, about the sound, or anything else, why am I so tired? I have no answer to that. Feel free to ask. I'm gonna be here letting this track play out, at least this time, maybe another time, depends on how active the chat is. Hyvä Sankko. Moi moi. Mitä voi, jos on huono olo. Yo, yo, roll with AU. What up? Madrina, hola. All right, so is the sound gonna start here? Yes. Okay. Hold on. On Twitch chat, there was Thunderstorm who is asking about the mix process creation of the kick drum. Well, in a way, I am sorry to disappoint you. It is basically 2 samples. I didn't do that much to it. I just found a sample that fits the key. It's my tried and tested kick sample. The track is in C minor, and it fits, at least to my ears, it fits the key of the track. Basically, kick processing, there's 2 things about it. Well, many things about it, but 2 things. First of all, in an electronic track, in my humble opinion, based on my experience, a kick needs to be pretty much the loudest thing in the mix. So what you do is you find a kick, obviously, first that you like and fits the track, and preferably, depends on the kick length and kind, but preferably also fits the key of the track, is tuned to either maybe the root note or maybe a fifth. Whatever fits, though, that it's kind of debatable sometimes. But anyway, and then you make it as loud as you need it to be. For me, I usually have my kick about -6 dBs in the kick channel or the kick bus. If I have many layering many kicks, I do a kick bus, and then the kick bus is about -6 dBs altogether, and that is sort of me leaving the 6 dBs of headroom for anything that goes on top of the kick and has peaks and whatnot. Well, so then after that, it's not necessary to make everything pump, all the frequencies pump around the kick, but pretty much a dance mix that is breathing and pumping the right way usually is built around the kick, meaning that when the kick is on, almost everything, at least in the low end, is not there so as to make room for the kick. So a good kick sound is one, but then in a mix you need to have room for the kick. So time-wise and frequency-wise, you are well off arranging, i.e. rhythmically, making your note so that it doesn't hit the same time as a kick, or if it does, then you'll EQ the low end out while the kick hits. And then lengthwise, you also see, basically, actually I use the waveform. I look at how long the kick is, and when the bass starts, or bass like fades in or comes in if you're using sidechain pumping. And then the other thing is that bass frequencies take the most energy in your mix. So when you have a kick on 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have bass come in the middle, it's about the relationship between the kick hitting, being fat and punchy, and the bass coming in and equally taking sort of frequency, space, weight. So there are counterparts like dung 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 dung. They switch which one is controlling the frequency or the track, and everything else is built on top of that. You have your lower mids and highs, but they don't take as much space in the mix, so they don't take as much headroom in the mix. So as to your question, my kick is just 2 samples. One, they're actually both sort of, well, the other one is almost a full frequency sample, and the other one brings a little bit like snap or attack to it, a little bit of a sound to the kick. And then they're just basically, there's a little bit of limiting on top because there's 2 clicks or 2 snaps, so they peak a little too much without limiting, but actual body of the kick is not really limited at all because the original sample is just nice anyway. And then I've made the first thing in a mix I did is to make the bass line and the kick. Just, well, all of my basses, there's several things in the bass, but there's 2 low parts, so the sub and the kick work together. So I'm sorry guys, I have some nastiness in my throat. All right, cool. And what do we have? Oh, moi Jani. Mitä kuuluu? Trent, my studio is not in my house, but it's in close. It's close. I don't have to put a winter jacket on when I across my yard to the studio. About the kicks in general and mixing in general, I would so highly recommend taking 1 or 5 of those tracks that you like at the moment and that you've heard, either if you're a DJ yourself or if you've been to a club and heard a track that sounds great. Take that track in your DAW, be it Logic, Live, FL Studio, Pro Tools, Cubase, whatever have you, Bitwig, Studio One, and analyze it. Just see the waveform, see how the waveform, the kick is, how long it is. Especially in the beginning of the track, you can see it usually quite easily. You can tell what's the kick, what you know, on the 2 and 4 you have the kick plus a clap. You can see how those pile up together. And then, you know, 15 seconds, half a minute in or whatever, if you're talking about a regular sort of older school extended mix, you have the bass line come in, and then you can see you have your kick here, the bass, then another kick, and you can see level wise, amplitude wise, how loud the bass line is, and then you can listen to it, of course, and compare. And then you have that on a reference channel in your DAW. For me, Logic, what I do is I actually don't put my mastering processing stuff on my master output, but I make a bus before that. So usually I have drums bus, I have synth bus, I have a kick bus, I have an effects bus, I have a vocal bus. Those all go to a master bus, or an aux actually in Logic. And on that one I have whatever master processing I want. Sometimes I do my, so to say, live project masters directly on the master channel. Sometimes I bounce out stems and do the mastering from a stem mixing mastering project. But regardless, when you're working, it helps a lot if you do a separate sort of master bus or aux, as it's in Logic, and then that is piped to the master channel. And then you have a reference channel or 2 which are bused to reference aux. So in Logic, I know that best. What I do is, once I'm in a place where I need to do the final mixing, I listen to my master bus soloed, so I hear everything as I should, because everything is piped to the master bus before going to the actual master output. And then in Logic, if you Alt click, so you press Alt on your keyboard or Option and click a solo on the reference channel, whichever track you have selected there and active there, so you can basically solo only that, and then you can solo the master of your track again, solo that, and you can A/B compare really quickly like that, just having the reference as a aux. And then if you put them in a mixer right next to each other, you create tracks for the reference bus or aux and master aux, and then you can just like Alt solo click and you can compare quickly. while you audibly in your ears listening, comparing, can figure out stuff, I'd highly recommend using a waveform display, some sort of an like what I actually use. I use isotope inside stuff, and then I use shaper box or volume shaper in my master just for the waveform. I don't process anything in my master with volume shaper, but I like how the waveform looks like, and I know by experience, and I know how the waveform should look like, and so I see, you know, the bass and whatever relationship. Also, what you can do with, for instance, the waveform display, you can then go to your master channel, and or you can have the wave shaper, I mean volume shaper or shaper box, for instance, with the waveform display on, and then you can go only have solo your kick, so you can see how your kick looks. Then you can solo your bass, so then you can only have your kick and your bass and how they act together in the waveform, because then you can also see if your kick is too long, for instance, and your bass starts already while your kick is still full on, then they're going to be possibly canceling each other or piling up, creating too much of bass build up there. So then if you use an envelope, if you use a sampler, if you use, say, the plugin called Kick, you can adjust the length of your kick, so you can make the kick shorter, and you can make the bass start so that they overlap only when they're really quiet. Then you can time them so that they don't take each other's bandwidth and the energy, and they don't create problems in your mix. All right, and cool guys. What else is there? So I'm gonna play the track a third time now, and if you have any more questions, feel free to ask. If not, it'll be fine as well. You can listen to the track, and you can listen or check this stream out again afterwards. You can also, which I actually would prefer, go to Spotify and hit play and hit repeat and let it play and play and play, so Max gets a lot of plays. All right, guys, I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Sunshine.
one of my favorite parts of the track, these breaks. And the breaks are... Also, I'll play the original for you as well. Hold on a second. All right, guys. So I went to the post office the other day. So you guys on Facebook might not obviously get this like the Twitch guys who are now following there will do, most of them. I've got a moderator called Rob, and on the Twitch chat, he's an Aussie. I met him last year when I did my Australian tour in September. He's from, he came to see my Melbourne gig on a beautiful Sunday, and we've sort of become friends over him doing me a solid and keeping most of the trolls in my chat, yeah, sort of in bay, either kicking them out or talking some sense to them. So Rob, the crazy nice guy he is, he sent me a little care package, and obviously, why wouldn't you have Vegemite in your studio? I don't have my GoPro on, so, well, hold on a second. Well, I guess if I put that there, you guys can see it. Yep. Too bad that some of this I can't really eat because they have, it has either dairy or gluten, which I can't have either. I can actually, I'm not deathly allergic to dairy, but it still doesn't really help my sinus and throat stuff that I'm got going on right now. All right, so really, twisties. the chicken thing, I think I can. This doesn't have gluten, but it has dairy. But I'm gonna actually taste this, man. All right, yeah, I can dig it. Cool. So you can't have these either. They have dairy. I know I suck, but I understand or appreciate the gesture. There's also Tim Tams, and then there was this for hot chocolate. I get yeah, source of protein. I need that. And I understand these are very, 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 very Aussie things, which is awesome. But so no offense, Rob, while I was excited, but there was still somebody that was a little more excited than I was. You sent him, my son Max, you sent him about 8,000 gazillion million Pokemon cards. And let me just say that, you know, if he didn't have to go to school, he'd be still even right now bouncing up and down in his room and, oh, Houndour, oh, Pikachu, oh, this one, oh, this one, oh, the form of this one, oh. That hit it home really, really well. And then there's this. And there's this, and then there's this. Oh boy, hold on a sec. Let's do this. Let's put it there, and then there. Is it me? Recognize it? Trans gaze to the distance. All right, so what we're gonna do right here, this is the Australian version of my my Before the Storm album. Get out of there. And Rob paid about $1 million for it on eBay because I've peed on it. No, I'm just kidding. He found one copy somewhere, and if you haven't seen it, this actually is the real cover of the Australian Before the Storm album. It came out on Bang On through Neo Records in UK, licensed for the whole world, and then Bang On. And basically Central Station, I think is right, yeah, to say, released it in Australia, and I toured in Australia early 2000s quite a bit. And this is me when I was still young and good looking. Now I'm only good looking. This is the Australian tour edition. Has all the same tracks as the original one, except then number 12 is Sandstorm Terpsichord remix, and number 13 is Feel the Beat Rocco and Heist remix. Has another cool picture of me. Yep. See, I already had this going on back then. All right. Oh yeah, well, Foxfield Project. I mean, no offense to whoever made this, but there's a couple of things. First of all, we had, in my opinion, a really good cover. I mean, there's of course opinions and covers can be different, but we had a great cover. Why would a country or country's record company need a specifically different version of an album? I don't understand. And then, like, are you seriously saying this is better than the original cover? Well, yes, it has the kind of storm graphic there with the lightning, but seriously, whoever made this and whoever okayed it, let's just say that I don't agree that this is better than the original. But either way, the music is the same, and this here is dedicated to my man Rob. As a huge thank you for your mod admin duties on the Twitch chat, and for your friendship, man. It's been honest and a privilege to get to know you, mate. And here's to many next meetups, and hopefully I'll play somewhere close to you again, so you can come drink my booze again, man. So there it says something like, thanks for the support, and that doesn't even start covering it, but I don't know what else to write. That's my go-to. And so I'm gonna put it a little scribble on the disc as well. It should be playing fine after that. And you know what, man? I am done. I'm cheap, and you get your own piece of cardboard and foam back when I send it over to you. Maybe I'll draw a dick pic here, I don't know. Or is it a middle finger? I don't know. All right, cool. So that's that. Rob, whenever I drive by the post office, I'm going to drop that in mail for you. Cool. This one that I'm going to now press play on is Max Millian, You Are the One, and this is the original mix of the track. And I gotta say, why I did the mix has nothing to do with labels, money, anything else. I heard this original mix and I liked it so much that I just wanted to make a version of it for myself to play as well. A little more energetic and so, because this is beautiful. This is great, but would be good for the beginning of my set, but I wanted a little more peak hour-y, energetic one as well. Cool. James Littleleaf, in Calgary. I must have played an unreleased remix of Feel the Beat. It's called Darude and Kenneth Thomas Group Cruise X remix. My buddy Kenneth Thomas and I were working on a track, and that is not released yet, but when we were working on it, I wanted to make a remix of Feel the Beat for more like modern mix or so for my sets. So I used a good chunk of the track that we were working on, parts like bass line and whatnot, to do the Feel the Beat remix. So Katie agreed we're gonna, it's Darude and Kenneth Thomas remix, and it's Groove Cruise X, Groove Cruise 10 remix, because I used to go to the Groove Cruise. I've been there like 7 or whatever times, and I first played it on the cruise, and I actually made made it while I was on board the Darude cruise ship. One day, I think it's gonna come out. Joshua, the effects on the vocals. Like you can hear, this sounds very similar to my remix vocals, because I didn't do much on the vocals. I just EQ'd them a little bit, and Max already had them bounced with the delays and stuff, so I pretty much just used his almost as is. I added a little bit of delay myself to cover some of the edit parts and so that it wasn't abrupt, but other than that, there's not much that I did to it. Bye, Lady Dora. Paragon 84, whatever works for you, but to me keyboard workstations might be a little limited compared to Logic or Ableton Live or what have you. Also, I agree, this is a timeless track. The original is awesome. Oh, hold on. Yeah. So Rob, check this out. Let's have them join the corner. All right. Your Vegemite and my honey. Yeah, this one was the original. Cool, guys. So we've done soon an hour. Yeah, Foster's, unfortunately Foster's is not gluten-free either, so can't really have that anymore either. Hold on, there was a question. Oh, well, first of all, Joshua Savio, what material is on the wall for soundproof? So what you see right here on my left, on my right, sorry, is sort of this, it's a movable side wall. I have those on both sides, but it looks the same as the back wall there. And the material is basically just very simple. It's almost like a molding that you would have, like, you know, the floorboard or whatever you call, like the molding. But it's just wood, but that's not as important per se as what is in the walls. In a back wall, that's 30 centimeters, i.e. about a foot to 2 feet in the center thick. And there's absorption material in the wall. There is some insulation, like, what do you call that? Glass wool, stuff like that. The black stuff that you see between the white wooden parts, that's sort of really, really thick and very tightly knit material that doesn't let the stuff outside, because there would be like dust from the insulation material and stuff. But what's important here is that there's about 40% gap in the walls, and that's by design, based on the I didn't design my room acoustically. Like, I just had a certain amount of space, and when we built this building, I was able to determine about the size and shape of this room, and based on the shape, height, width, and depth, I guess, of the room, it was calculated that the back wall and the side walls, they need to have about a 40% gap, i.e. they're not fully reflective, hard material, but I wanted something sort of live sounding in the room. I didn't want it exactly dead either. So the room is designed so that whatever sound goes from the speakers by my ears and to the back wall doesn't bounce right back, but bounces sort of to the side walls and sort of behind those movable walls that are at an angle, so on both sides of me. And so that's why my sweet spot here is pretty clean, and doesn't have second and third reflections too loud here. And actually my side walls still are lacking a bit of an acoustic, this foam or acoustic material tiling, that it will be there at some point when I get around doing that. Oh, Thunderstorm, you asked how long. Well, with this remix I can actually tell, not exactly hours, but I did about 5 or 6 hours a day on 2 days when I was in Hawaii a while ago. I just know that because I happened to be there, and 2 consecutive days I was working on the track. And then I did 3 or so hours at an airport lounge on my way back, and another 1 or 2 hours on a flight. So let's just say 10 hours plus 3 hours, 13, about 20 or so hours while I was on the road, and I got the track about done. Then I did 1 session here in the studio where I was working on the production a little bit, and then the final mix, and that was like during 1 day. So I don't know, let's add another, it's hard to say, but let's add maybe 5 hours. So 20 to 25 hours on this one. And this was when it was really quick for me. It came out effortless. It was very, I just did the simplest thing, like, you know, sort of felt and heard and could do, and it just turned out nice, in my opinion. And it was very quick for me. I've had tracks that I've had in progress, not halted, but slow, like for a year or something. Sometimes I sit with a project, you know, 5 consecutive days, several hours a day, and I feel that I'm getting somewhere, and I feel that there is something to it, but I still, you know, don't get anywhere in, you know, 5 days. So this one was just really, really quick. So Old Mortem, these walls do both. They absorbed a little bit and they also redirect it. So like I said, the back wall is, you know, is at an angle. In the corners of the room, they're 30 centimeters thick, and whatever that is, 30, yeah, a foot. And in the center, it's about 2 feet. So they're a little triangular. And so as to direct the reflections more towards the side walls, and then the second reflection basically kind of behind the wall here, or the walls on both sides. I understand it's not exactly like all the sound goes back there, you know, sound goes each and every way, and there's reflections from the ceiling and on the wall and my desk as well. But this arrangement cleans up the sweet spot quite well, and we measured the room, and the sweet spot is pretty damn good. I got a couple of dips, or actually one dip and one boost at around 60 hertz, and then around 100 hertz there's like plus and minus 6 dB. So I don't even remember right now which way it is, because while it sounds quite a lot, but it's not that much in a room that is quite frequency response flat right now. And then I have the Genelec speakers where I can compensate for that. And while you can't fully compensate on a room mode, because those dips and the boost has to do with the room depth basically, but you can compensate a little bit on that. And then now that I have those Genelec speakers, the 8351s, most of the sound comes directly from there, and I don't need to use a sub, so I hear the bass directly from them. I hear it way better than I heard it in my previous setup, which was still good, but it was the old Genelec system, and I needed to use a sub, which is under my table, and I still have a sub here, but I don't use it mostly on dance music at all. So yeah, so the walls are used both for absorption and reflecting the sound, and the angles basically reflecting it elsewhere than to me. Paragon 84. So I have to first do a little disclaimer. I'm not like a acoustics expert like that, but this one I think I can tackle quite well. Why so many people using headphones these days, or with so many people using headphones these days? Is there a difference when using studio monitors and headphones for production? Well, for me, obviously I use headphones for production all the time when I'm on the road. When I'm in the studio here, I sometimes check my mixes with my headphones because I know my headphones really well, but I do produce pretty much 100% on the speakers here. Sometimes when I'm on Twitch, for instance, doing a stream, then it's better for me to listen here so I can hear my voice as well and check the levels and stuff. But there is a huge difference between headphones and speakers. For some people it's critical, for some people not, when they know what to listen and how. But when you're listening to stuff in your headphones, you hear isolated left channel and isolated right channel. When you listen with your speakers, which is like real life, how real life happens as well, you hear, say, the left channel also in your right ear and the right channel also in your left ear, because they all mix in this space. And that's where the stereo image comes from, sort of the natural stereo image of speaker systems. Once your room is calibrated and your speakers are in the right place, whatever the angle for you is, for me about 60 degrees difference. Of course that changes when I move, but anyway. And so then when you pan something to the left, you hear it from the left speaker more, and you hear it from the right speaker, but you still hear it with your right ear too. The same way, if somebody speaks to you in that direction, you hear it with the ear that is more towards their louder, but then because of that, you also can determine where the sound comes from. That's how whatever human hearing works. So you have completely isolated left and right channel if you just use normal headphones and don't use anything to compensate for that. What that does is that you hear wider than you would in a speaker setup. And what that does is that you mix, your final mix will be narrower on regular speaker setup than it would, because you already hear wide, so you don't feel that you automatically want to make it wider or want to do that, because you already hear wide. Another thing is that you hear center usually louder. When that in turn makes, for me for instance, it makes my kicks and vocal, they're different range, but so kicks usually like 1 to 2 dBs, maybe 3 dBs quiet, and my vocals a dB or two at least too quiet if I just mix it with my headphones. So that's a big difference, and so it has happened to me where I make a track and then I have good amount of mid frequencies, wide mix, well, sometimes wide, but like it sounds wider because the center is pushed up, but then it's lacking bass, and also it might be lacking the main lead vocal or the main lead synth of the mix, or decibel, a couple of decibels off of those. And so when you mix it on the speaker system here, that's automatically comparable to the real world, i.e. other sound systems, be it cars or clubs or whatever. What's cool these days is there are several different plugins that you can use to compensate, and there's also full headphone systems with like gadgets that you can plug your headphones in that compensate for that. And what they do is they basically, just crudely I'll explain it, but I don't know how the algorithms work, but they basically do a little bit of cross feed between the left and right channel so that you can hear a little bit of left in your right one and the other way around. They also might simulate a space a little bit, like your room. You can determine whether you're mixing in a small space or big space, or how far you're from the speakers, what your speaker angle is. Based on all those parameters, it makes it sound like you were listening to something in a room. And you can also compensate the loudness of the center or mid channel so that you'll mix sort of correctly the kicks and the center channel stuff as well. And for instance, I use a thing called Waves NX right now for that when I'm on the road and when I mix on the road. A lot of times I work without it, but then when I start my mixing phase, I put that on, and then I realize like, hey, I need to widen these and make those louder and blah blah blah. And I used what was the plugin that Redline? Hold on, just a sec. I'll give you the name. Redline Monitor. I have that as well. I used that before, but I think that is a little more artifacty than the Waves NX. But those both, while they do a little bit sort of negative stuff to the sound, but once you get used to that, it gives you better grasp of what's going on in the mix width-wise and levels-wise, and they simulate the, regular speakers quite well. All right. So, guys, I'm gonna play my remix of Max Millian, You Are the One. One more time. This track is out today. It's out on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Beatport, what have you. And it's also on my SoundCloud. It's on Infrasonic SoundCloud. Infrasonic Recordings is the label it's out on. And Max Millian is a Finnish guy who's been working on music for a couple of years. He's studied in UK at the, I forgot, I should know this. Is it AES? What is the academy there? He's well versed in all of that. He's also an event organizer, production guy, and great musician. All around good guy. You should look him up if you guys are on my Facebook feed. I posted links to the releases and to Max and to Infrasonic there, and I'm gonna do the same on I did the same on Twitch as well, and I'm gonna do that again right quick. Oh, Rob just did. Thanks, man. Killer. And so I'm gonna just hit play. Here we go. Oho, moi Sanni, moi Anssi. Hello Paul, Pasquale. Hi Jeff. Thank you, Foxfield Project. My son is doing faces outside my window. mic on. Audio professional here. So, alright guys, thank you so much for joining me. We've been on for about an hour and 20 minutes now, and I think I got to go. Well, Foxfield Project, you don't have to feel sorry for Max for liking my mix, because my mix definitely came out of whatever he'd done before me. This is totally his track, and I was inspired by his work, so it's then a matter of taste. Whatever, like, I like my mix more than his, but that's not, there's many reasons for that. I like my mix more so that I can play mine in a little more peak time spot, and his mix is more floaty and more of a bigger journey, and it's not as peaky, so that would be an earlier setting for me, for instance. But it's the same track anyway. Thanks for hanging out with me. This track is called You're the One by Max Millian, and I made a remix of it. You can find it on the regular places, Spotify and whatnot. I've posted links. Moi Tommy, and thanks for joining. Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Polo Bear producer Tommy Fallenius, Tom Fall, just joined my Facebook stream. Good to see you here, man, and we should get on our collab at some point. Send me the parts, dude. So right now, when Tommy came in, I'm not gonna bore him with more of my yapping because I've been on for a good while already. But so I'm gonna close this sesh right about now, and I might actually do another one for US a little later today, because I can see that the US peeps are now about waking up. Yeah. Go check it out on all the spots that you usually do. If you don't see the links on your feed right now, you can just go to whatever you want, your service, your platform that you use, and search for Max Millian. You are the one. Millian with an A. Millian. And Darude remix, or just Max Millian, You're the One, and you should find it. If you want to share this stream, feed, link, or if you want to just go on Max's track on one of those platforms and share it, I would highly appreciate it. Thanks, guys. We're gonna say bye and hit stop streaming right now. And Twitch is still there for a second. Stream is not going to start soon. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with me today, and I'll try and be back with some production stuff as well at some point. I'll see you next time.